Hey everyone, and welcome to This Analysis. Today, we are diving into a topic that affects pretty much all of us at some point, yet it's often wrapped up in so much financial jargon that it just feels totally impossible to decode. Well, we're going to change that. We are unpacking the actual mechanics of borrowing money, breaking down exactly how loans work, and putting a massive spotlight on how interest rates actually impact those loans.
So picture this for a second. What if he needed money for higher education tomorrow? For a lot of people, this isn't just some hypothetical scenario. It's a sudden, very real hurdle. You're standing right there at the threshold of your future, looking at the cost of higher education, and it hits you. Ambition alone isn't going to pay the tuition. You need capital. And for the vast majority of us, that kind of cash doesn't just exist in a checking account waiting to be spent. That exact pressure point is where the financial tools we're analyzing today step into the spotlight.
All right, to understand how we solve that urgent need for funding, let's jump straight into Section 1, Loan Basics, focusing on principal and interest. So, at its core, a loan is defined simply as giving money to another party in exchange for repayment of the principal amount plus interest. The really crucial phrase here is in exchange for. It's a strict two-way contract. One party provides that immediate, much-needed capital, but the borrower makes a rock-solid promise to return the original amount plus that critical additional cost.
You can essentially break this dynamic down into two completely distinct parts. First, you've got the principal amount. That's the exact sum you actually needed to borrow in the first place, like your actual tuition cost. Then you have the interest. Honestly, the easiest way to think about interest is like paying rent for holding on to the bank's money over a period of time. Understanding the push and pull between these two elements is absolutely crucial to our entire explainer today.
Let's take those foundational concepts and apply them to a real-life situation. Moving on to Section 2, Funding Your Higher Education. Let's look at how this builds into a real-world journey. Our source material outlines a very specific three-step process. Step 1, you realize you need money to pursue higher education. Step 2, you take action. You apply for a loan at a bank or some other financial institution, and you go through their whole review process. But Step 3 is where the heavy lifting actually happens. You absolutely must agree to an interest rate for repayment. This agreement is the entire linchpin of the deal. No financial institution is going to hand over that principal amount without locking in exactly how that interest is going to behave. Which brings us to arguably the most important part of our analysis. Section 3, Calculating Interest over time. This is where we really see how interest rates impact loans once the paperwork is signed.
To make the math super concrete, let's just use a specific figure. 1 lakh rupees. This is our principal. It's the exact agreed-upon sum needed right now to fund your classes. It starts out as a flat, clean number, but, spoiler alert, it doesn't stay that way for long.
And that is because we have to introduce the element of time. Let's say 4 years. When you take out a loan, you aren't just borrowing money, you are borrowing time. This is the specific time frame decided by both parties for you to repay that 1 lakh rupees. You have 4 years to clear the debt. But how exactly does that interest attach itself to your initial capital over those 4 years? Well, here is where the mechanics really kick into high gear. According to our source data, interest is actually calculated on a daily basis. Yeah, daily. It isn't just some flat fee that gets slapped on at the very end of those 4 years. It's an active, ongoing calculation. Every single day that you hold on to that principal amount, a tiny fraction of your agreed-upon interest rate is applied. It just ticks away, day after day, week after week, month after month, for 4 entire years. Grasping this daily calculation is the absolute key to understanding the true cost of borrowing.
Because of that relentless daily math, your total repayment becomes significantly more than 1 lakh rupees. That 1 lakh, that was just the starting line. The daily interest is the engine driving your total balance upward over time. The compounding impact of the interest rate means the final sum you hand back is substantially higher than what you initially borrowed. And this is exactly why paying incredibly close attention to the specific rate you agree to up front is so profoundly important.
Okay, so we've looked really closely at the micro level, right? The student, the 1 lakh, the daily interest. But where does this money actually come from in the first place? Let's zoom out for Section 4, the generational lending cycle.
Our source actually captures this perfectly with a great quote. Investors lend money for a new generation. This completely shifts our perspective. Banks and financial institutions, they aren't just creating this money out of thin air. They are utilizing funds from investors. Everyday people are essentially putting their money into these institutions to grow it, and then the institutions use those exact funds to propel the next generation forward, like a student needing to pay for higher education. So that interest the student is paying on a daily basis, a portion of that flows right back as a return to those original investors. It's this massive, deeply interconnected cycle of generational lending and growth.
So knowing how all this actually works, the relentless daily calculations, the principal, and this massive generational lending cycle, how will you use this knowledge to fund your own future? Because here's the thing, once you understand the mechanics, a loan stops being this mysterious, scary burden and simply becomes a tangible tool. You now know exactly how the cost of that tool is calculated over time. Use this understanding to your advantage, negotiate better rates, and make truly informed decisions about your education and your future. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.